Let's begin up here. We've got Bill Vickery, who is the host of the Sunday Morning Buzz, GOP strategist. Thank you for being here. Janelle Lilley, who, now we don't applaud for these people, so
please feel free to applaud. Yeah. Thank you.
Janelle Lilley, who's one of my cohorts, the lead Capitol reporter for KATV Channel 7, and the dean of the political press corps. He has reached that age in life now where he has dean status. John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Great tie. There you go.
Thank you.
The next step for Brummett is to go from dean to emeritus, is where you go next. So, yes, yeah, but you're not there yet. All right. We're going to answer some of the big questions of this political season, which are who might win the U.S. Senate race, who might win the Arkansas governor's race, who will take control of the Arkansas House of Representatives, and can Tim Griffin convince us that the lieutenant governor's office is more important than any other race in the state of Arkansas, which I think he will make a great effort to do. So as we always do with tradition here at the Political Animals Club, our first question will come from the Helen Thomas of the Political Animals Club, Miss Annie Abrams. Miss Abrams, you get to ask the first question to this panel right here.
Number one, you know, I'm also a pro, and I've been studying the issues. And I believe we are headed to something like a holy war. And the reason why I say that is that we have discussions about pro-life versus execution issues. We have poverty versus the 1%ers. We have housing for the rich and affordable housing. When we think of those issues, we are thinking that we are in the Bible Belt. As a result of that, I've been around a long time, and I'm concerned about my patriotism as an Arkansan. What will happen with this holy war on those issues? Education, health, incarceration. If we end up with two Arkansans running for president of the United States, Hillary Clinton and Mike Huckabee.
All right, before this question gets answered, whoever has a Camaro, Bianca Cruz, your car is about to get towed. So I don't want to embarrass you on the worldwide internet, but you might want to go move your car, all right?
Does it have T-tops? Is it black? And does it say Bandit?
It's not yours, Bill. It's not the white one. It's a different one. So. All right, Bill, you get to take the question.
I was going to give that first one to John, knowing that he's done some in-depth research relative to a lot of those issues and the HRC Huckabee showdown.
That's it?
Well, no, I was going to defer to you for that, to answer that one. Annie,
I don't even understand the question. It's over my head. Particularly sunk down in this chair, it's over my head. Basically, I think you're saying that a lot of our issues are being couched, or actually are, in the issue of a right and wrong. And you call that a holy war. And what happens in this holy war if we wind up with two Arkansans as our candidates for president in 2016? What happens to or in regard to this holy war? Well, Hillary will win and the Methodists will be in charge.
I would take
some exception to that.
A little issue with a couple of things. One is I don't think that at the end of the day, Governor Huckabee will be a candidate for the presidency. I think he's mentioned. I think he is a significant presence on the national political landscape from a media standpoint. Two, I challenge the fact that Hillary Clinton's an Arkansan. She's a New Yorker. And so, hey, don't blame me. They moved to Chappaqua. Well, they didn't come back and move to Rose City. Don't get upset with me for telling you the truth.
You could say the same for Huckabee.
Exactly. He's a Floridian.
Right.
So you technically have a Floridian and a New Yorker who've abandoned the state of Arkansas.
Do you want to take that question?
Yeah, I think the media is really looking forward to it. I mean, I would love to see both of them in there just for the sake of bringing so much attention to Arkansas. It's a state that over the years, has had its moments in political history, but I just think it's a state that I'm proud to cover politics in, and even more so to the fact if we had 2 presidential candidates coming out of it.
The shoes would be flying, though, I can tell you that. It would be quite a showdown there.
I might get another contract for a book nobody would read.
You and Woodward could duke it out again right there for
What was
release
the name
day.
of that one particular book? What was it called?
What was the name of that book?
String
Do you
Wire?
remember?
It was called High Wire, From the Back Roads to the Beltway. The Library Journal called it the best book to date on the Clinton presidency. That's because at the time it was the only book to date on the Clinton presidency. Let's move on.
Let's move on. All right, in the U.S. Senate race, we are seeing a very tight, close race between Tom Cotton and Mark Pryor. Let's begin with, Brummett had to answer this one first. Let's go Vickery first on this one. How does this race finish out? What happens over the next 6 months?
Well, it's been interesting to me because I know, Roby, you and our friend Jay Barth, who I think does a very good job at Hendrix College, our alma mater. Get a plug in there. Go Warriors.
Appreciate that.
Mostly because people don't believe I ever went to Hendrix. That's why I like to point out the fact
I've got
that
the
I went.
photos to prove it.
Yes.
Everybody, I got the photos to prove it.
There's a couple of things with the Senate race, and I'm going to lump the governor's race in there too. That, we see Democrats now, and or at least I've been hit with this last week, that, oh my gosh, we've got these polls that show, dead heat in the governor's race, and Pryor's ahead in the Senate race, and this is not what we thought. And there's kind of this wave of rushing the field to tear down the goalposts before Easter even. I think both of these campaigns are a little bit like a long baseball season. And I've never really believed in good polls or bad polls early on, because what really matters happens after Labor Day in terms of actual polling to understand where we are, because the ground and the terrain changes a great deal. Everyone in this room's worked in politics, you understand that. But you can make an argument in March and April and even May that the Kansas City Royals will get to the World Series. You can, you watch Kansas City television, they will tell you how the Royals are going to get. And pitching this year, we got a couple of young arms, and if the bats come around, and we got guys that can steal bases, and so all that's, and it sounds credible. It is a credible argument. Can't be denied. You can't say that it can't happen. You can also make an argument that the New York Yankees will be in the World Series in October. The difference between the two arguments is not a lot has to happen for the Yankees to win, but a whole lot right has to happen for the Royals to get there. And I think that's the difference. Because of the president, because of his unpopularity, because of a number of issues, because of, just look at the setup of the ballot now. You look at the number of Republicans in the state House that are coming back as a lead pipe cinch. You look at the number of Republicans in the state Senate. You look at the monolithic nature with which voters now, and I know no one wants to hear that. I'm the guy that's telling you it's going to rain on Easter. For a lot of my Democratic friends in here, but there is a monolithic nature with which people vote. It's not 72 or 68 or whenever it was that we voted for, Rockefeller and Fulbright and Wallace and whomever else all at the same time. So everything has to go right for the Democrats to be there in the fall. Not a lot has to really happen for Republicans to continue to move forward.
And so are the Libertarian and Green Party candidates, are they the Cubs in your
Yes,
analogy?
that is they're the Arizona Diamondbacks
I got it. Okay, gotcha.
for a lot of those guys.
Janelle, your take
I
on
mean,
the Senate race.
we always say with Arkansas weather, if you don't like it, just wait until tomorrow. And I think this early on in the season, it's really hard to make a stance and say definitively. I mean, you've seen the poll numbers just like every one of us has, and they change all the time. There's a new one each week. And so I think it is April, and it's really hard to make those calls right now. And I wouldn't want to be the one to have to do it. So,
Brummett, wake up.
I was thinking it's a good thing for the Republicans, as Bill says, they don't have to do a lot between now and November to win. Let's take this current polling situation. Was on your show with Rex, and you asked about the Senate race, and that was, a month ago? And we both said smartly, advantage Cotton. Right now, to reinforce the point, that's not necessarily so. It looks from 3 consecutive or 4 consecutive polls that something has happened. Yes, it's all going to change. Yes, it's volatile, but this is what is happening. The anti-Obamacare flame is flickering just a little. It's been the fuel for the Republican insurgents. It can't last forever. Nothing lasts at full passion forever. It's still there. It's still strong. I think it may have stopped. The Democrats, thanks to Harry Reid's PAC spreading lies about Tom Cotton taking bribes from the insurance companies, they are managed to make the race about Tom Cotton also. It's not just about Obamacare, but who is this guy? You need to take a look at this guy. Right now, I think the Democrats are successfully taking advantage of the fact that there has been sort of a ceiling on the anti-Obamacare discussion, and they're trying successfully to steer people's attention to Tom Cotton and just who he is and what he's all about. And it's going to be close to the end. They're going to spend, not they, the parties and the Koch brothers and the groups, they're going to spend millions from now until mid-October to keep everybody close, and then the undecided voters will decide at the very end. But right now, I think smartly and somewhat remarkably, Pryor and the Democrats have changed the conversation slightly from Obamacare to Cotton personally.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that because I do think John is onto something in that the sense that you can see this sort of anti-Obamacare intensity waning to a degree. I think that the trouble with this, that you assume then that it goes away for good, that the light bulb burns out and it's just not there anymore. It goes dormant and comes back, and it has been there for a long period of time. And there will be 2 or 3 other benchmarks that move through the campaign cycle, especially in October, that tend to revive it with great intensity. And so I do think you're right. I think it wanes to a degree, but it just goes dormant. It comes back again, and that can't be denied. And that's the Mariano Rivera coming out of the bullpen for the Republicans in the fall.
All in all, I think we can all agree it's going to be a race to watch till the very end, and the kind that the journalists like to cover, because you're not going to know going into it.
This is true. Okay, I want to remind everybody we are live streaming, and so Senator Jonathan Dismang, who will lead the Arkansas State Senate, I just want to show you how easy and affordable it is to live stream. Just in case you want to take some notes on some of that. So. All right, Janelle, I'm going to come to you first on this question here. Let's talk about the debate proposal that was thrown out on Sunday between Tom Cotton. Are we going to have to suffer through 5 Senate debates in this campaign cycle?
I would say that's very doubtful that that's going to happen. Of course, Pryor's camp, when they got word of it, did issue a statement saying that they do want to have a debate, but they did stop short of agreeing to the 5 Lincoln Douglas-style debates that were proposed. I mean, I don't know. I know we have a debate proposal on the table. I think a lot of people want to see the 2 engage in an arena. It's just a matter, as it always is, of the when, the where, and the how. And hopefully the 2 campaigns will work it out, and we'll be able to hear a real discussion between the 2 of them.
Vickery, you're from cattle farming country up there in Van Buren area. So you bringing the bales of hay? How's this going?
Yeah, no, listen, I think it's a great idea. No, I really do. And I hope. Yeah, and this is what happens with a lot of things, you know, and with all due respect to all the media folks here, including folks up here, everybody get out of the way. Put these guys in a room, give them someone who's a quasi-moderator, and let them talk for an hour.
Yeah, but they don't want a moderator. They want a timer.
But I'm just saying, that's fine too.
Then you're just going to have 2 people talking in sound bites at each other instead of a journalist asking
I think,
questions.
but you get, and John lamented the fact that we no longer get unfiltered candidates, that everything is reduced down to kind of the essence and all that. And so then this comes out, and what does he do? He makes fun of it. And so he's the mayor of Cynicismville.
That's not true.
You make fun of
And
him.
No, I
you
didn't make
did,
fun
you
of it.
did.
I'm
You
sorry.
mocked it in today's
No,
column
I
where
didn't
you said
mock
you
it.
thought it
I
was a
did not mock
campaign
it.
stunt.
I analyzed it smartly.
You analyzed it. There we go. So, but I think that, because here's the thing, this race extends beyond Arkansas. That is a race that the national media would cover. That's an event that the national media would cover. And I think it's to some degree would really benefit both candidates.
So do you think each of the 5 debates would be that different from one another? I mean,
No, I mean, look, I think 5 obviously is not a workable number for these folks, but I do think 1 or 2 would be nice.
I wish Tom Cotton, when he announced in Dardanelle, last summer, had said initially, let's have 5 debates, let's stand out there on a flatbed truck and do this. And according to a lot of his supporters, he's been for this all along. I wish he had announced it before it just so happened that he had fallen behind in 3 consecutive polls. It looks like it's an attempt to change the narrative, which is what you always try to do when you fall behind in polls. So I think, one, it's a great idea, not necessarily to go around and have five of these things, but it is a great idea for these 2 people to account more for themselves rather than for their corporate backers to run this race. It's a great idea. I wish they could do it. The political practicality is such, as you know, Mark Pryor, if he just went ahead in the polls, is not going to go for something like this. Tom Cotton knew it, therefore it was tactical rather than genuine. And we're going to have an AETN debate and maybe one on Channel 7 with Roby. They always do 2 debates, one on regular TV and one on educational TV. And they're so tightly regulated that nobody gets anything out of them. And they schedule them early enough so that their big out-of-state benefactors can make atonement for whatever spontaneous gaffes they may make. That's what always happens. That's what's going to happen this time.
Before you criticize the would-be proposal that we've had, I mean, I can just speak for myself and for Roby, and I think we're interested in the discussion that the 2 would have. I don't think.
Well, let's have a little news. Roby, are you offering a free form between
Yes.
the 2?
Well, you remember in 2010 when we did the Peabody debate with Blanche Lincoln and with John Bozeman, portion of the debate was journalists. You were one of them,
Right.
asking questions to the 2 people. They spoke out to the audience and gave their canned responses, and then we moved them to a table halfway through the debate and let them look across the table from each other and ask each other questions. And I thought that was the more honest discussion in terms of getting some off-talking points, reality in that debate. And of course, Blanche Lincoln flubbed there at the very end and threw some poorly researched opposition question.
Oh, I remember that now,
Yes,
yeah.
it was very awkward for them to shake hands after that.
Yeah.
We will take some questions from you guys too. I'm going to throw one more question to the audience, our panelists to get them stirring. But if you got a question, raise your hand. I'll come over and you can feed it in my ear. I'll let you talk into the microphone. We haven't talked about the governor's race yet. Does it play out like the Senate race? Is it a different political animal? No pun intended.
Shall I go first?
You should.
I think both Cotton and Hutchinson are stuck. I think that Obama's
Ross.
What I call him?
I think you called him Cotton, which he was.
That's
right.
a mistake. I apologize to both gentlemen. I think Hutchinson and Cotton. No, I think Hutchinson's stuck. Ace is stuck. That's what I'm trying to say. I think that your poll has the negative rating for Obama at when you somewhat negative and somewhat disapproving and fully disapproving, up around 60%. They're running against. They're running as Republicans with that tied in their favor, and yet they're at 40, 42, 43. I think both are kind of weak candidates. I think that Ace Hutchinson has run. This is now the 4th decade that he's run in. Forgive me, but he's kind of shop-worn. People aren't really excited about him. Cotton seems to be a newcomer that people don't know yet, who has a great resume but hasn't demonstrated any engagement of the voters. And I just think both of them are stuck. That's the way and they may unstick, and Vickery's going to tell you they're getting ready to unstick and speed to a great victory. But right now, I think they're stuck. Hutchinson.
There's some Curtis Coleman supporters in the audience today too, Bill, so you get to address that as well.
Pardon me?
There's some Curtis Coleman supporters in the audience today too, so you get to address that dynamic as well.
Go ahead.
I think you can learn a lot from the poll numbers, and Roby and I were just talking about this recently in the sense that you can see the way that the campaigns are tailoring their ads to what the poll numbers are saying, in the sense that independent voters tend to swing more towards Hutchinson. And so you see a lot of the Mike Ross ads talking about him as an independent. Same thing with women, right? They are polling stronger in favor of Ross and then of, so you see a lot of the ads geared towards women. And the first ad that Hutchinson released, it was his wife was the one who was speaking. So I think you see a lot of them, they have their bases fairly solidified, so the people that are up for grabs, they're really tailoring their message at them. And I think the same can be true of the Senate race, can be said of those races as well. And so in my opinion, yes, you see these poll numbers, but there's so much more into the poll numbers as far as the demographics that's much more interesting than just the statistical toss-up that we have right now.
Brother Vickery.
Yeah, I want to address what John said about both of the candidates being stuck. I mean, and I get it. I understand that to some degree, their expectation was that both of these races would be over before Easter. And back to my earlier point, it is a victory to be even and below 50%, and sort of kind of clinging to the ledge by your fingernails. But we're not dead yet. That kind of narrative that's out there from the Democrats, and look at us, we're going to come back and all this other stuff. And that's all well and good. But the reality is that when these independent voters that you touched on concentrate on the race for real, when you get into September and October, the messages that are there for the two Republican candidates running for Senate and governor are so much more damaging to the two Democrats running that it is impossible, short of some major catastrophe or calamity, to overcome those messages with the people who will show up at the polls. And just look at the numbers. And just here's a for instance. When you break down the State House of Representative races around the state now, there are 39 Republican races that will not have a Democrat in the fall, and there are 29 Democratic races that will not have a Republican in the fall.
27 Democrats,
27.
and then 35 Republicans.
There we go.
There's 38 that
Thank
are
you.
uncontested.
You got to
Thank
always
you.
call on a real reporter to straighten you out on
Well,
that
thank you.
stuff.
I was off by 2. So then when you lump in some of the shoe-in races for Democrats and shoe-in races for Republicans, you got Nate Bell will have token Democratic opposition where he is. So you got all those things. So then you end up with a number that is around 46 for Republicans and around 37 for Democrats when you come back with about 15, 16 races out there that were genuine toss-ups. So the momentum to retain the House of Representatives is on the Republican side. Are you going to tell me that some guy's going to hopscotch around his ballot and end up near the middle or the bottom and choose a Republican for state House, that somehow they've skipped over these other big races when those are the races that are driving the people to the polls to begin with? I mean, it doesn't, again, it's like a meteorologist. You can just see this coming. And I understand we love to prognosticate now. Everybody loves a preseason AP poll in college football. But at the end of the day, what matters is who plays in the national championship game. And I keep making these sports analogies, but...
No, you made a weather analogy, too, and it's like Todd Jacobian probably take issue with you saying the weathermen are always right. Go ahead.
I think here's the difference. Bill believes that the mood is so strong that we are, as you said, a monolithic electorate now, and you're saying, are you telling me the Arkansas voter is going to skip around and make some seemingly nonsensical choice? I'm telling you that's what the Arkansas voter has always done. Now,
that's the difference.
Yeah, no,
you look back at the past, and you need that to happen. I'm talking about what's happened in the last 2 election cycles and moving forward.
Do you think
and there's
it's
the
the
difference.
same election cycle as 2010?
I think it's very similar.
Well,
I think it is. I think when you see the intensity out there.
I think the possibility, especially in the governor's race, there is still possible, and I acknowledge you may be absolutely right. They may just run up the middle with anti-Obamacare and win. But in the governor's race, it may still be that the people of Arkansas look personally at those candidates and don't nationalize that race. It may still be so. Senate race, you're more apt to be correct. You may be correct both. I don't mean to say that, but you're more apt to be correct about the Senate race, I think, than the governor's race. I think, right now, Arkansas is going to send a message to the country that we have gone crazy red, but we've elected 3 or 4 Democrats. And it's going to be a typical Arkansas, nonsensical, irrational message.
Which is why you love the state.
That's why I love it. That's why I love it.
And I would point out, too, in 2010, when it was a red-hot Republican tidal wave year, Mike Beebe cruised to victory and Mike Ross.
Well, he's different. Is
in the
he here?
4th
Yeah, he had
Congressional
no tie.
District,
He had
won by 17
absolutely no
points.
tie, though, to the administration in Washington. And he did a great job with the budget, by the way. What did he tout as his primary reason? So he focused on economic issues.
Yep.
There was no reason to dislike
But
Mike.
even so, the Arkansas voter did go around and make made at least one out of character choice, right?
I wouldn't say out of character, because I would say that when you look at Mike Beebe and what he has accomplished as governor, and you
Right.
didn't put a D or an R
So
next
they
to his
made a
name, you could
particular
make
choice in that
made a
race.
philosophical
That-
choice that's in line.
Okay. Yeah.
We've got a question from Maryland.
Well, first of all, I wish my husband was here, because I've always said the only thing you need to do in a basketball game is watch the last 10 seconds. Why are you spending this whole day watching it when it's the 10 seconds at the end? But
Are you
more than-
criticizing us for even being up here
I'm
this
just-
early?
Yeah. The fact that it's a
We're
sporting
trying to
event.
support the club. Roby asked us to do it. and-
No, this isn't really this is
Okay.
just something that I don't even know if there's an answer for, but we could all raise our hands on how embarrassed we are of the ads that are on TV for every candidate. All right, is anybody embarrassed but me? You know, it's shameful. And that's all I'm going to say. That wasn't a question, was it?
That really wasn't a question. I think that was a statement. So anyhow, John, have they been your favorite commercials so far? You got a favorite commercial so far this election season?
I have to say, and
Yep.
is Mrs. Hill here? Yes. Okay, I'll pick another one. The banker with the car that won't start. That's my favorite so far. That's my favorite. So far.
It's because the kid says it's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
He's so embarrassing because. Janelle or Bill, you got a favorite commercial so far this election cycle?
Oh no, I love them all equally, Roby.
They're like her children. Go ahead, Bill. Your favorite so far?
Actually, there's a great commercial in Iowa, if you've seen this, in the Republican primary, where a woman
I've been
is.
watching a lot of Iowa television.
I gotta tell ya.
I think I know where you're going with this.
It's a woman who's one of her qualifications running for office is that she used to castrate hogs, and can't wait to do the same thing in Washington to the pork in Washington.
I think she wants to cut
know.
pork, is what she says she wants
That's
to do. So.
That's not someone I'm sitting next to on an
Has
airplane.
anybody heard of the Tea Party opponent of John Boehner in his ad today? Should I tell him about that? I don't think I should.
Yes, you should. You should.
No. It accuses Boehner, and it mispronounces his name. It accuses Boehner of having, listen closely, erectile dysfunction. Isn't that what it is?
I think we got a drug.
It is pretty funny.
We got a drug for that.
Hey,
All right.
points for creativity.
Counselor Larkowski has a question.
The McCutcheon decision from the Supreme Court last week. Any thoughts on how it will affect just Arkansas? Just confine your answer to just Arkansas. Any thoughts on how?
Hey, what button are you wearing there? What is that? Yellow. Okay, good deal.
All right.
Go ahead, Bill. You're the money
The
guy.
question is, the McCutcheon decision of last week or week before, any thought about how that will affect Arkansas? I don't think the McCutcheon decision has that much effect at all. I think Citizens United has poisoned and ruined our politics, and this is just step two. And it allows a rich guy, rather than to set up a nonprofit or a super PAC, he can now max out to all the candidates or all the candidates of his party in their individual direct contributions. So what? As long as they can create these nonprofits and these super PACs and spend any amount of money they want, often without us knowing who's contributing the money. McCutcheon is just a sad anticlimax to the disaster of Citizens United.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to add to what John said, other than this idea somehow that you can ever regulate money in politics is funny and almost laughable when you see where it goes. Instead of trying to limit people's ability to contribute to campaigns, you should be able to instantaneously identify who's given to a campaign and how much, and it should become a campaign issue. So if you're a millionaire and you want to give $1 million to someone, fantastic. If you're on the other side and you don't have that, you can make that an issue. And so, but somehow this kind of hard lefty notion of if we could only just make campaigns where everyone cuts out construction paper stuff and holds up signs, it's not going to happen.
Well, no,
So
that's
instead
hyperbole.
of that, how about we identify legitimately everyone giving instantaneously and then run the campaigns?
I I agree with that. And this well-intentioned ethics/term limits proposal in Arkansas that we got this fall, it bans corporate contributions to candidates. Okay, now what's that mean? That means everybody just does what Michael Morton does with the PACs for the Maggio campaign. Just go set up a bunch of PACs. Yeah. You can't, I'd rather have corporate contributions to campaigns because those are capped and reported. So everything you try to do will be countered. I agree. But Citizens United simply removed any backstop whatever and made money, speech, and made corporations people. And I think it was, it's created not rule by the rich, stalemate by the rich. Because nobody's going to be in charge because they're spending the money. It's that both parties have so much money that they lather us with all this nonsense that it's in their interest to keep everything stalemated or to fight the other guy. And anyway. Don't get me started.
I have a lot of lobbyist friends that like the status quo, and several of them are here in the room today. All right, Mr. Pritt, you get to ask your question.
I don't always find myself agreeing with you, Mr. Brummett, but you did hit on something that's very logical. But I want to ask all the panelists here. Ever since Orville Faubus tossed Francis Cherry out of this House and all the way down to John Thurston winning the land commissioner's race in 2010, Arkansans like dark horses and upset victories. We've heard about the governor and Senate race. Looking at some of the other races for each of the panelists, tell me some races you think that are going to be the surprises on election night and maybe some of the upsets either in May or in November.
I don't think there are really going to be any upsets. I'll just go down the list listen. I loved the quaint old days when I would go with my dad to the Cottage Cafe in Van Buren, Arkansas, and sit around and listen to him talk. My dad, who loves John Brummett, by the way, hates me on television, but loves John Brummett. And to show you a little bit about where I came from. But those days are over. Those days are gone. And a lot of people here, we go to the Pig's Knuckle Festival and the parade and all that. Those days are gone. Let me tell you who the real influencers are in Arkansas politics now. You look at the numbers in Arkansas for Fox News and you see how deeply it penetrates. You look at how these other third-party organizations like Americans for Prosperity and others, you see how deeply they reach out and penetrate. The idea of campaigning to opinion leaders, while that's critical in terms of raising money, it's critical in terms of having early spin, those days are over. Look at where the votes are and who votes in Arkansas now. Two-income families, mostly professional, over the age of 35, have kids mostly in public school, by the way. They pay taxes and they got their kids in school. They've got skin in the game. So those are the people that vote. They don't have time to go do and be and all these other things that we all love to do as political insiders. So somehow this notion that, again, I go back to this idea that you're going to hopscotch around and, well, I know, and I remember seeing him at the Elks Club when he came in and all that. That's gone because these guys are on the phone raising money to put stuff on television.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying on that, but I think that's the reason that we do shows like Talk Business, Talk Politics on Sunday mornings at 9. It's an opportunity for anyone to turn on their TV and to get engaged and to hear. It's not at the Elks Club, but we certainly do have candidates on sharing their opinion. And so I think maybe the venue has changed, but I think the opportunity for political engagement still remains. Now, whether or not people take advantage of that is to be seen, but I don't think that those days are over. I just think that they're different.
There's unlikely to be any upset, but if a lot of people will do what I'm thinking about doing, which is going to vote in the Republican primary for Andy Mayberry over Tim Griffin, because he promises to abolish the office, then we could affect a surprise there, couldn't we? Yeah. I voted in Republican primary before.
I was about to say the surprise may be that you voted that you may vote in the Republican primary.
Right. Well, I voted for Sheffield Nelson over Tommy Robinson because it was the noble thing to do. And
so fill out the rest of your Republican primary ballot for us while we're here. If you've got Andy Mayberry for lieutenant governor, let's go.
You know that if how would I vote on my full Republican primary ballot if I did that?
Yes. And Andrea Lee is in the room, so just in case you don't want to get punched.
Outside of auditor.
I would. I would gladly vote. I'm sorry to have to say this. I would
Your
gladly
campaign
vote.
is doomed, Andrea
I would
Lee.
gladly, this is going to
Support
ruin her. I'd gladly vote for Andrea Lee. I'd gladly vote for Duncan Baird. And that's about it.
What about Attorney General?
Oh my goodness, I got a load of those 3 candidates for Attorney General last week. I don't know. I'd vote for Asa.
Okay, all right. You just sunk Asa's candidacy.
Do you want to
Yeah.
fill out your ballot? Now that I'm like curious now, you've intrigued the journalist up here.
I think what's interesting is you look at the number of people who will vote in the Republican primary versus the number of people who vote in the Democratic primary in this election cycle. And there is a real credible opportunity that you will see more people for the first time in the state's history. And I'm not talking about carpetbaggers right during Reconstruction and all that. You'll see more people vote in the Republican primary than you will in the Democratic primary. And,
I mean, there's more contested races.
that's never happened before. And with all due respect, to go back to the past, I mean, that is an earth-shattering development in Arkansas politics. That solidifies what I'm saying about the fall. The key is, do you see Republicans win and retain that coalition of sort of kind of moderate Republicans and Tea Party Republicans? Do you see them working together? Do you see it fracture? That's a big issue. That's where you could see, that is where you could see an upset in the fall, if there's a genuine fracture, or are they working together? And I just don't think that's, one, we're not talking about that. It hasn't happened, and it may not happen. You may have more Democrats vote, but if that happens, that is that's, what else, that's a thunderbolt down. That's the burning bush. That's Moses running around. I mean, what more do you need to know?
It's moved into biblical analogies now. It's good.
Old Testament,
Sports.
too,
There's
by the way. Old
That's
Testament.
right.
Exodus.
Brummett, I give you the last word. I know we've got a couple more questions, but we're wrapping up, and our panelists will hopefully stick around for anybody that didn't get a question in. You get to
Give me
finish
what?
up. You were acting like you wanted to respond.
Wrap up. I believe, if I might summarize, Bill Vickery says this state has gone Republican, and you may as well get used to it. Is that your message? Not going to change.
It's in the ballpark, yeah.
It's happened, and it's got something to do with the Yankees and the Royals.
Well played.
I'm sorry. I say Arkansas is still a charmingly peculiar place where something strange is going to happen. And it's going to be the Cotton Ross voter, or it's going to be James Lee Witt or Patrick Henry Hayes. I believe something like that, or 2 or 3 of those things could happen. You like the TV money, and Talk Business is a great show, right? Right? I believe, and that's what I got.
I don't get any of the TV money, but Talk Business is a great show.
Yeah. Okay.